Hey, chiropractors, welcome to Modern Chiropractic Mastery with your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, where we discuss the latest in marketing, business, and professional growth with some of the leading experts in the industry. Hey, docs, welcome to another episode of Modern Chiropractic Mastery. This is your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, and today I've got a great interview with Dr. Ryan Wigness, and we're going to dive into how he started his practice in Whitefish, Montana, and now has 4 locations, and just kind of dive into what that looks like. I love having chiropractors in the trenches that are, kind of under the radar a little bit, but doing great things. I've gotten to know Ryan through our mastermind the last couple years, and I can consider him a friend now, which has been cool. I was out in Whitefish, Montana in early March for an MPI seminar there, and also ski trip with my family, and got to visit his practice or one of the locations, and got to know a couple of his associates, and just someone that's doing it the right way, going about his business, putting in the work, been doing it for 20 years. It wasn't built overnight. I think a lot of people that listen to the show or go to other chiropractors' offices, maybe you're newer into the profession and you want it now. And I get it. That's how I was. But a lot of times when you see these really nice practices, it's hard to realize you haven't seen the 20 years or the 15 or the 10 that was behind it to get it to where it was. And now you see this really nice practice and a well-oiled machine. But just know if you keep on doing the right stuff and you keep at it and you're consistent with it, when you're 35 or 40 or 45, you'll have it. It may be tough at 28, but you just keep on laying that foundation and growing. And that's why I like to have docs on here like Ryan, who can give you some of their wisdom on how they did it, because everybody does it a little bit different. And sometimes you're listening to our different interview guests and you may resonate with some and may not with others. And so it's great to hear from different angles. Whitefish is a unique town. It's not small, not huge. It's seasonal. It's got a lot of people that are in and out of there, but it's growing. And so you might be able to relate to an area like that as well. And so this was a fun interview with someone I consider a friend, a colleague, and just someone that's doing it in a humble manner and has an exponential growth mindset. And it's been a great addition to our mastermind. Without further ado, here is my interview with Dr. Ryan Wigness. Okay, before we get to today's episode, I want to share a little opportunity from my good friend Ben Fergus. Many chiropractic offices like ours have had to restructure the past few years with high employee turnover during the great resignation, leading to a constant cycle of onboarding and training new staff. Others purposely have stayed small, limiting their growth over the stressors of finding and onboarding good associates and staff. Is this you? How would things change if you had a potential hire who was ready to go, already trained and primed to assist you in providing exceptional rehab or soft tissue therapies? What if your potential associate hire was already trained in leading a team of assistants? Grip Approach is offering a completely new Grip Teams course, allowing you and your team to onboard together over a single weekend course and backing it up with a virtual platform for your clinic. Your team members can choose from 3 tracks: diagnosis, rehab, or structure, which are simultaneously presented, followed by implementation as a team with live cases. Stop limiting your growth and take the stress out of training your team by joining a Grip Teams course this summer in Baltimore and this winter in Chicago. Use the code MCM for a 15% discount at gripapproach.com. That is GRIP approach.com. All right. Welcome to the show, Ryan. I got a really good opportunity to chat with you today. I'm excited about where we're going to go with this. It's been awesome to get to know you a little bit over the last few years. But before we dive into the meat of what we're going to talk about today, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself personally and professionally, and then we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me. I graduated from Northwestern in 2001. And then I got an opportunity to go out to Ohio and around the Cincinnati area. Got trained with Eric Isil and Mark King out there, which was awesome to see. One, from a clinical standpoint, and two, to see how an office is run. And then I had an opportunity to move out to Whitefish, Montana, and 20 years later, still here. So,
Yeah, definitely. And how many locations do you have now in the Whitefish area?
so we live in a valley where we got three different locations now. I'm lucky enough to have great docs working for me, and yeah, it's been cool to see our area grow, and luckily we've been able to grow with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And every so often we do these MPI mastery spotlights where we take a doc that's just in the trenches, doing great things, really has built a practice and a reputation that is remarkable, and have them on here and try to dive into it and tease out some things that have helped along the way uh to do that. And obviously you're now 20 years into it. It takes time. I think I want to just put you on the spot here a little bit because you do talk to a lot of other chiropractors as well. I think people don't realize how long it can take. They want what you have in 20, 30 years, and they want it in year 5. So, what was some of the building process of your group of practices over the years?
Well, the big thing is, I had the luxury, I think, in 2001, we didn't have all of the information that the students are getting now, right? So I was the president of the MPI club when I was there, and it was all MPI all the time. And uh, then, I think it was like 2005, 2006 is when, some of the other things like the DNS and Graston, Factor, and those things started to come along. So in school, I got a great background in the MPI model. I did some ART courses, and that was pretty much it. You had your soft tissue and you had your manipulation. And then when I got out here, I had a chance to grow into these other modalities. And so I came in with a really solid base with the palpating adjusting. And at chiropractors, I mean, obviously we need to be good at that first and foremost. And then these other things I was able to start to fold in and kind of see how they worked, see what conditions would apply for maybe like an active release situation. When I did the DNS, it was a lot of the reflex locomotion. So it was kind of back of ways. And so I played around with that, learned a ton from that. But it all came back to having a really solid base in the palpating and adjusting, because when people come in to see us, they're coming in to get adjusted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was Brett and we had that conversation on the podcast in the past where I fall in that same group where for me, like I came out of school in '05 and I had a lot, and that was just, palpation adjustment. I had some ART, not a lot, and a little bit of Graston, and I had a rehab background. Like I knew some of the stuff, the McGill stuff and everything. But it was a nice concise package that I was able to really perfect and get good at. Then I added this stuff to it, and now there's like 20 different things, all kinds of stuff, whether you're talking about rehab modalities, assessment stuff, soft tissue thing. Like it's a lot. And kudos to a lot of the younger DCs that are doing this stuff and getting that. But it gets tricky because they never have that time to really perfect something. Right. And I think that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah, absolutely. The palpating adjusting is got to be your North Star. I mean, that's got to be your guiding light, and not to let anything take that focus away from you. But the other stuff is great. I mean, I think
Mhm.
one of the reasons why we were able to build our practice is we got to be known as a clinic that was constantly going out and finding the latest and greatest. Like, we were the first active release providers, the first Graston providers, the only DNS providers. We're doing stuff, we're bringing stuff to the valley, and we promoted that too. One of the nice things about doing the continued education is you can come back and talk to your patients about, hey, I went out and learned this new thing. Let's try this. And so they know that you're always trying to be better. And that reputation, people really see that and they notice.
Yeah, and obviously you could categorize a lot of different chiropractors, but just for the sake of argument, a couple of them, it's not like you have to manipulate everybody in every joint every time, but there's a good amount of times where you need that. And I feel like the model you're talking about and kind of the path you went when it's needed and when it's a part of it, and obviously probably a vast majority of your patients, but maybe not all of them, but when it's needed, it's a very effective adjustment. And then on the other hand, you have some of these DCs that are really super rehab heavy, and they do the adjustment on some of their patients or a good amount of them. but they never had the proper training or, it's hard to say because they went to chiropractic school, but, there's more to it than just the chiropractic manipulation education you're going to get. And the adjustment just isn't that effective. And I think we all can attest, we've all had those adjustments that are just really good. And when it's good, right?
Yep.
It. And I recently had that when I was actually at the MPI Sports Summit in KC. I had Kurt Kippenberger adjust me, and it worked. It was remarkable. It was worth talking about. Like, shit, I might fly to Springfield to get adjusted by him to do that. And so we've all had that feeling, and that's where you need to get to with palpation and adjustment, and it doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't. I had the same thing when I was in school. I had Mark King adjust me, and I'd been adjusted a ton. I'd seen a chiropractor since I was 10, 12 years old, and it was different. And so in my mind, it was like, I can't honestly go on in this profession not learning how to do that. He adjusted my T2 seated, which is not an easy adjustment. And it took me a long time to get good at it. But I also think that helped build my practice because I had something that, when people are coming to you looking to get adjusted, if you can do something they haven't had before, they know that. I mean,
Yeah.
which is cool with our profession now is very few of my patients have never seen a chiropractor. They're just looking for a better option. And so they've had an experience, and when they come in to get a different experience, it gets a lot of buy-in very quick.
Yeah, they've had bad adjustments before, and it's just like nothing. It's any other business that you service. If it was kind of just like blah, even if it wasn't bad, but it just was kind of like, there's a good chance you're not going back to that. Like if that restaurant you go and that meal was like, yeah, that was fine, but is it going to draw you back there consistently? No. But then when you go to that restaurant and it just like knocks your socks off, it draws you back there like once a month. For your date night and you pick that location, like that's my spot, right? And that's the same thing. What we're kind of alluding to here is, I think there's a lot of chiropractors out there that palpation adjustment is a big part of their practice, but it's not where it needs to be, right? And I think that's something that is kind of going unsaid a little bit in 2023 here.
I know we're going to probably get into this a little bit more too, Kevin, but since you're leading into it, you know, I have to admit, at times, you can get lazy with your treatments, right? And
Mhm.
so, I mean, I go to MPI seminars every year. I help out with them occasionally, and every time I go, I get better at what I do. I learn something new. I learn a new adjustment. It forces me to get better at that, and because of that keeps me on track. And that's invaluable to me because it really, I mean, when you're in the grind, I mean, you're not always completely 100% dialed in, but when you go to those and you see what other people are doing and you learn something new, it's exciting. And I always come back with a better chiropractor from it.
Yeah, and I think something that I've appreciated about you is that, you're not you're a really good chiropractor. You're good at communicating with patients. You have the business fundamentals and all that. You're not trying to put lipstick on a pig and go out there and be rah rah and and doing all this crazy stuff to try to grow different locations. You're doing it from the ground up. It's kind of like that NFL team building a team. It's like they got all these star talent out there, the wide receiver and the running back and all that, but they have no offensive line, right? And it just doesn't work. And then the teams that have the offensive line, it makes everybody better. And I think a lot of chiropractors are putting the flair players out there. They got the wide receivers and the running backs and the tight end, but they don't have the offensive line when it comes to the substance of their treating. And that can really build a practice. And so I want to tie back to your multiple locations for a second here. Um, you got three now. How long did you have one practice?
I purchased a practice here in 2003, and then I opened up a second one 3 years later
Mm.
because I had an opportunity to share an office space with a PT. And I always thought that that would be a great opportunity to bring an associate in to kind of have their practice, and then we could kind of co-treat with that. So I hired my first associate about 6 years later, and then I had an opportunity in 2001 to join a medical center,
Mm.
which has got MDs, the hospitals there. There's PT, there's an eye center. And they asked us to be a chiropractor because there's actually friends of mine that have the building. And we've built those relationships with them. So they offered to build out a clinic for us. And one of the reasons we did that is we did need more space, but also I think that a good opportunity for chiropractors to look at is we've got built-in marketing with our space, right? We've got a sign. It's got Glacier Medical Center. It's got the PT. It's got all these other people, and it's got Whitefish Chiropractic Center in there. It builds credibility. It's free advertising. I got a small space. And so we hub everything out of our central location. So it's really not as expensive as you may think to run a separate office, especially if there's ethereal benefits you can get out of it, such as associating yourself with leaders in the medical profession in your community.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of that law of scales. And then how are you finding your chiropractic talent? Is it through, being involved with MPI? Because you've got a few associates now, and I hear a lot of owner chiropractors complaining about being able to find good associates. How are you doing that?
Yeah, it's tough. I got my first associate I got from Sarah Mackey at an MPI seminar, had mentioned that. I put an advertisement out for the last one on the Motion Palpation board, and which was good to get the name out there. But Brett Winchester had recommended my last associate, last two actually, to come out here. And that was really beneficial to get their backing with that. But being associated with whether it's MPI or ART or wherever your niche is, being associated with those groups, and getting that credibility with the students coming out, and so they can trust you as much as you can trust them. I know they're coming out well trained. They're coming out with uh, the the endorsement of these doctors that they've looked up to, and so it really gets to be a win-win. And I'm lucky to have got three great ones. And we work hard to retain them, keep them busy. So because we want this to be a forever home for 'em.
That's great. All right, Docs, here is a new opportunity for you from Darcy Sullivan of Propel. She is our SEO specialist in helping out many chiropractors with their search engine optimization and making sure Google is finding you and getting you new patients. It's amazing how many new patients chiropractors can get and are getting when they do the SEO right and a few other things. And Darcy is offering a free SEO workshop just for chiropractors, and you can sign up for that at bit.ly/propelmcm. That is bit.ly/propelmcm, modern chiropractic marketing, right? And so check out that link, and we're going to have you go over 5 SEO secrets to owning the first page of Google without buying ads. And Darcy's going to give that free workshop, 1 hour, to really help grow your practice and start churning new patients from the ever mighty Google, which is still king in the online marketing. So check that out at bit.ly/propelmcm for the 1 hour free workshop. Yeah, and I think, there's a couple benefits of being involved with groups when you do graduate, and one is talent acquisition. Obviously, if you get involved with the MPIs of the worlds or the ARTs, it's like you now have a kind of an arena, and it's cultivating really good talent, and then they know who you are, and then jobs come available, and you have obviously the potential to fill that. The other is obviously just getting better. I think it's always ironic. I'm gonna kind of circle back to the manipulation part of things and tie it into it all, but a lot of DCs that have been graduated, whether it's 1 year or 10 years, can do a lot of continuing ed, but it seems to be a lot of things that maybe to get their CE credits. I get that. You got to do that. Or it's a lot of stuff that's, soft tissue or rehab. They're doing a lot of those things. But so many of these chiropractors that are, licensed DCs, the last time they've taken some kind of palpation and adjustment seminar was when they were in school. And so it could have been 10 years ago. It was the last time they
Yeah,
attended something. And one thing I really enjoyed was when I brought my whole family out to visit. I saw one of your locations there. I was out in Whitefish uh, for the MPI seminar, but also a family vacation. So we were there for 5 days. But one of the things I enjoyed at that particular MPI seminar was there was a lot of DCs in there. That was pretty cool. And you were one of the instructors. So how did you guys cultivate that into getting quite a few DCs coming to it?
well, I think a big part of it is, we've got Mark King and Brett Winchester instructing, and I get to teach with them, which is an honor for me. But it's an opportunity to get to see those two in a small setting. And if you like to ski, we have a great ski resort right here. And so we really tie a lot of it around that. And, we've been doing it for 15 years and we've molded it from being, a really big 12-hour. We did it in one day once, which was a bad idea. So now we've got it tighter down to, a nice day from 9 to 4. You get 2 hours of manipulation, palpation manipulation, you get 2 hours of soft tissue, you get 2 hours of rehab. It really kind of gives you, reinforces a lot of what you already know, but you always are going to learn something new. And I think that's one of the big things about the palpation and adjustment. Like you said, a lot of doctors don't do it. Part of it is it's humbling, right? We think we're masters at what we do when we go get out of school. You have to humble yourself a little bit to go to these seminars. But man, if you do, I mean, I have yet to, I go to multiple MPI seminars every year and I've yet to come back learning something. And it's really, really important, I think, that we continue to hone the best skill we have, right?
Mhm.
We got to lean into what we're good at and be better at it, you know? And and like I said, patients see it, your staff sees it, you'll feel it with that enthusiasm you're going to get. That starts to wane over time. Patients will start to slowly, you'll lose that a little bit. But when you come back from these, you're on fire.
Yeah, I went to the one in Whitefish and I went to the MPI Sports Summit, which was great. I think you're going to be at the Adjustathon this year, right?
I've helped out with quite a few of them over
Yep.
the years, and yeah, it's the adjustathon is I mean it's unbelievable because it's all like you get into it, you're palpating, you're adjusting right now, and with that, it's 12 hours of perfecting what we do on a daily basis, right? And so, and I know, and you can speak to it on some the additional things that they're doing, for docs. I know a lot of docs don't think that the Adjustathon is, I think it's a student event, and that's really not true.
Yeah, it's not true. And then actually this year, really restructuring it. And so Brett and Corey really been spearheading it, and I've been kind of working with them on that as well. But there's going to be a whole DC track this year and moving forward. So you'll have the student track, and then you'll have the DC track, and it'll be completely separate. And in that one, it's going to be a little bit more advanced palpations and manipulations, right? Like some of the ones that are tricky, and so that way we're going to really dive into some of the things that you can take home and work on as a DC and say, "Oh, okay, I didn't have that in my bag before." So there'll be that. There'll be some more extremity stuff because traditionally with the student adjustathon there isn't there. So there'll be the extremity, the definitely the more challenging, advanced palpations and manipulation, and you'll be in with your colleagues that are all seasoned DCs, and so that'll be a really good setting for that, and a little bit of different instructors in certain parts of it, and so I'm excited about that layout. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, and it really is important too, because you want to give the students what they need. And so this new format allows the doctors to come in and work with other doctors. And it's not like you're working next to a student where you end up feeling like you have to teach them. But at the same time, like you said, there are a lot of adjustments that are difficult that we just don't do because we don't have faith in, right?
Yep.
We're going to lean on what we've got confidence with. And there's a lot of things that I've had to go back and relearn because I just haven't done enough of them in practice because you're always leaning on your strengths. And so here you can go and you can learn new things, do it in an environment where you're learning with some other docs. We all know what we're doing, but hey, let's try this. And gosh, I can't imagine you're not going to bring some stuff back to the clinic. That's not going to help you out on Monday.
Yeah, and I think that I want to touch on the psychology of it a little bit because in our heart of hearts, we as chiropractors, we all know the certain adjustments we're not good at, right? Or the certain palpations
Yeah.
we're not good at, and they're there. It's there's sure I'm sure there's some that are great at all, and obviously the instructors are phenomenal. But as just regular chiropractors out in the field, we have those insecurities of like, I really suck at the CT junction. I don't want anybody else to see that other than my patients who I wham on every day. But I think the big thing is like you said, check your ego at the door. No one's there to judge. You probably have like 4 or 5 things you're world class at, and it could be different than the 4 or 5 things the other DC in the room is world class at. You can learn from him, and it's just there's just amazing capabilities in that room that you can share, and no one's judging anybody. It's just like, yeah, we all suck at some things, and that's why we're here to get better and be a little humble about it.
And some of it is that whole idea is you don't know what you suck at yet, right? I mean, I remember learning a long time ago from Len Fee and anterior cervical adjustment, right? And I never really thought too much about that, but I had to adjust me. And I'm like, God, I need that in my repertoire, right? I do that all the time now. I mean, it's a big part of what I do. And I was in practice for probably 10 years. I was at the Adjustathon and learned a new way to do side posture from Brett Winchester and worked with Sarah Mackey as far as her drops go. And I mean, it's fantastic to be able to do that in an environment of your peers where we're all here to learn. There's no judgment, right? And I think that's the idea is when you go in there is you have to be humbled and it's not that, right?
Yeah, I want to touch on that point you brought up, kind of passing there, is like the different techniques. Like that's going to be part of that DC track with the advanced stuff. Is like there's, definitely different ways you could do side posture. And you like, let's just make up a story. Like, let's say you're 43 years old, like I am, and your shoulder is not doing so great. Maybe you can learn a kick pull from someone there that you just haven't really done. You either never learned it, or you were young and strapping and you were able to just pound on people and no problem.
Yeah.
And now it ain't like that anymore. And you got to get a little bit more refined, whether it's just the basics of a side posture adjustment, or it's maybe learning a kick pull or other things that could help out. That the other, I think what's gonna be cool about the DC track too is, again, it's not gonna be obviously just great instructors. That's the table stakes, but you're gonna have a lot of other DCs in there that can give you some tips on stuff that like everybody's been through something, and they may have a little bit of a tweak here or a little bit of a idea that could help save your body, or that type of complicated patient that I can never get this region to move on this type of patient. And then someone in there has found some kind of a success. So I think it's just really, really going to be important to workshop that with other DCs.
That's a great point. And the thing is if you're in a setting with other DCs who've been in practice for a while, they're doing something right, right?
Yeah.
They're doing something right. And so you're going to learn, you're definitely going to learn stuff from them. And it's kind of like, I'm lucky enough to be a part of your mastermind. And in that mastermind, we're there to learn from everybody. And I think that's the setting for this as well, is everybody's there to learn from everybody. Hey, here's a format that we can work off of and some things we want to work off of. But yeah, when you're there adjusting each other, I mean, I'm gonna have somebody adjust me that's like you said, it's like, wow, that's different. That's new. I need to learn how to do that because gosh, as the longer I'm in practice, the more humbled I get. I mean,
Mhm.
I feel great about what I know, but I mean, I realize the longer I do it, the more I don't know. Right.
Yeah.
If that's common for a lot of other chiropractors too.
Yeah. And that's been the cool part about the mastermind that you brought up, is like there's 20 plus of us in there, and all at a successful level in practice. And people have had that beginner's mindset when they come in there, and they've checked their ego at the door, and they share their insecurities of business or marketing or treatment or whatever, like leadership. Like there's been a lot of vulnerability in that group, which has been pretty awesome to see. And obviously, it's been fun having you the last few couple years, and then next year we're gonna do a whole West Mountain one that you're gonna help me out with, and join that. So I'm excited to have you tackle that with me. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I mean, the nice thing is that you pick great locations, which is always nice, so we can have a lot of fun while we're there. I've loved getting to know Florida. Coming from northwestern Montana to Florida, it was a little bit of a haul, but I'll tell you what, every time I went, it was well worth it. And it'll be nice to stay close to home. I get to have my wife come with me on these. And yeah, and I still want to be a part of the East Coast one as well, because, as we talked about with our learning, I learned the palpating adjusting in school. And then I had the benefit of, kind of gradually learning the other stuff as we talked about. And now it's transformed into, I'm all in on learning how to market, learning how to grow my practice, how to be a better business owner. And, man, I sure have a lot to work on. Right. But the good thing is I had built a practice on that, like we talked about, that palpating, adjusting, and then a lot of ancillary procedures, which is great. And when I took that foundation and I sprinkled on the marketing, man, there's a lot of growth that we could have there because we just had never really done that marketing before. So I'm really excited about that mastermind and getting a chance to work with some other people as well. And the group thought that goes into really high level clinicians, and it's an impressive list of people and what they've accomplished. And yeah, I mean, every time we come there, you know, I've come away with adding something to the practice that's significant.
Yeah, and, like you mentioned about marketing to increase your business, I think the thing that's, um, been noticeable about the mastermind or when you go to, like, MPI stuff is that the doctors have the goods too, right? Like, if you try to increase the marketing, but you're not good at what you do, it just doesn't work, and that's why we see a lot of practices kinda just hover at that floundering mark for a while. There's gotta be something they have to really look in intrinsically, like, "Okay, what am I missing here?" And that's why it's important to have outside entities come into the practice sometime to assess things or, go to seminars, go to masterminds, go like because you need the flashlight kinda shown on some things sometimes, and that's what the mastermind's done, and I think, like this new track with the adjustathon for DCs could help too. It's like, go in there, there's gonna be, some, things that you're gonna learn, you're gonna see other people do. It's like, "Oh, I didn't know that," or someone's gonna educate you on something, right? There's gonna be a lot of things, I think, and as long as everybody goes in there with that beginner's mindset and say, "Okay, yeah, been 6 years since I've been to a palpation and manipulation seminar. There's probably some things I don't know, and I'm gonna go in this, with a beginner's mindset and learn." So hopefully that can be recreated.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing like we talked about, with the mastermind, everybody went in with a very open mind about being self-audited, right?
Yep.
I know you're a big fan of auditing yourself, and I have got to be more so as well. And, when you're there, everybody's doing the same thing, right? Everybody's self-auditing. And so, that's a very good, safe place to be in and a really great place to culture learn.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It'll be exciting, and, there'll be more information coming out on that for sure. They can go to the MPI website to check it out, but the, DC track information will be on there in the near future, so that'll be cool. So last question, putting you on a spot a little bit. I'm sure you've put some thought into it. Um, you're 20 years or so into this, right? What does the next ten years look like for you professionally?
Uh, yeah, it's a great question. Like, a lot of this we talked about the learning is I don't want to quit learning.
Yeah.
I mean, seeing Mark King is at the mastermind and he's still there learning from, us young pucks, I guess,
Yep.
but, and it's so inspiring to see. And I'm going to keep going. I mean, right now I'm really excited about because marketing's new for me. The business growth is so exciting for me. I got two young docs and a doc that's been with me for over a decade. And I really, right, what makes me thrive right now is seeing them succeed. Seeing, our growth in our practice, having a really good culture for people to work in, like that means as much to me as anything right now. And it's interesting too. I thought about this before I got on we started out my career with this palpating and adjusting model and I added all this stuff, a tremendous amount of stuff. I've spent more money on continuing education than I did my education. And what I do on a daily basis now is palpate, adjust a couple minutes of ART or whatever Graston or whatever soft tissue I choose to do. And then I do a home care program through Chiro, which it makes my life way easier. And if they need additional rehab, I've got a doc to do that. I got a doc to do dry needling. We got pediatrics and peds now. So we're trying to create a practice where, when people come in, we've really got their needs met, you know, and that ultra convenient kind of model with being in these different locations it does help grow your practice for sure.
Yeah, it does, and you're in a growing area, that's for sure, huh?
Yeah, we're growing fast, which is great. That whole Yellowstone show really made Montana blow up, and outside and seeing people in goofy costumes, walking around here, it sure has brought a lot of economy to our state. So it's a good and bad thing, but
Yeah.
as a business owner, I'll take it.
Yeah, how many ranches are being bought out there by people that have no idea how to ranch?
Oh boy, that was the big thing, as I think it was Rogan was talking about it, how, all these rich people had all this stuff, but the one thing they didn't have was a ranch to tell people about. And my gosh, have people bought those up and they just think it's the greatest thing ever. And yeah, now Whitefish is kind of on the map and so people are coming out here and we're lucky enough to live in a beautiful place. And so I certainly don't blame them. So.
Cool. And are you going to be hosting the MPI seminar next early March as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think this will be our 16th year, and Mark and Brett and I would be teaching again. We're going to go over the shoulder this year. It's a great weekend. Most people come out and ski for 2 or 3 days. Saturday we do about 6 hours of course. There's a beautiful lodge there we stay at, and it's a really fun setting to get a chance to work with a bunch of really high quality docs in a relaxed setting. And I take a lot out of it, and it's one of my biggest prides in my career is being able to be a part of that.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was definitely a great experience. So, well, Ryan, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to seeing you again this year at the Mastermind, and then I again thank you for helping me out for the West Coast one in 2024. So, thanks for your time today.
Absolutely, Kevin. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And if you want to make the shift from busy, broke, and broken to time free and cash confident, or you just want to continue with the exponential growth, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com. Look at the MCM Mastery tab, watch the short video on there, and check out what we are doing now for evidence-informed chiropractors. We are equal parts coaching and marketing done for you. Yes, you shoot some videos, we help you with campaign strategies and ideas and really become a thought leader in your community. You shoot those videos, you send them to us, we produce, edit, and brand them to you. Then we distribute them through all of your channels. We also take them and we turn it into one good blog per month. And every other month, we have Darcy Sullivan producing a robust blog with a topic that you pick from her database to help with your SEO. So we essentially become your content marketing agency to make sure your practice is always having ethical, elegant content marketing to help grow your practice. On the coaching side, we also help you with everything from marketing ideas to business, communications, finances, anything practice growth, and really try to help prevent you from being stuck on that island. And we hold you accountable. We have a great group of doctors that are just doing amazing things, and we look forward to help you out to take that next step in your practice. So again, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com and learn more.